On this episode of VacconJohn Unplugged, I'm having a conversation with Frank Wheeler, the founder of Municipal Maintenance Equipment in California. Frank is a true Vaccon icon and has been in the industry for many years with a ton of industry knowledge and great stories to go along with it. Let's get into it.
Some of the stories we can't tell.
You don't get a second chance to make a good first impression.
Now I actually
Now you know me.
Now I know you.
Yeah.
All right, Frank, thanks for sitting down with me.
Happy to do it.
Welcome to VacconJohn Unplugged.
Oh, Unplugged.
Unplugged. I don't think you've been able to catch any of the shows yet. I'm going to have to show you on YouTube where you can watch the other ones, but
I'm afraid if I watch them, I might see mine. That could be a problem.
at some point you will. At some point we will. So we're at the Wet Show. How are you enjoying the show so far?
So far, it's been very good.
Day one. So we've been setting up for the show and at the booth, talking with customers. I've seen you. You've dragged me across a couple people and met some people. So we're on top of it right now. But we got to break away for a little bit and talk on the podcast. One big reason I wanted to have you on the podcast is because you're really special in the industry. And the guys that were founding dealerships that really steered Vaccon to another level, I call the guys that are the lifetime Vaccon people, I say it's the Vaccon icons. And so the only people that have been on the podcast so far is Trevor Gardner and you that I consider a Vaccon icon. So I want to hear the backstory of how you founded MME and some of that things. I'll ask you some questions to steer that through. But just as a background, I know that you founded MME, Municipal Maintenance Equipment. You're in California. You live in Sacramento, correct?
Correct.
And you founded it in 1992?
92.
92. So how did you find yourself to go down the road in this industry?
I had worked for another gentleman for 12 years, pardon me, with the intent of maybe purchasing that company or somehow being part of that company going forward. And one day he walked in and told the company, we've sold the company. And there was no option there. And so the person that purchased the company was more involved in creating money by buying companies, stripping them, and selling them. I worked for them for 6 months and said, I can't work for you anymore because my philosophy of work is different than yours. For them, it was all profit-driven.
Right.
For me, it was customer satisfaction. Profit came, but it was customer satisfaction that was important.
So this company that you were working at the time, was it a dealership or were
It was a dealership.
Okay.
We handled a competitive brand to Vaccon.
Yep. So that was in the 80s?
Yeah, I started in 1979.
1979. Okay. So you started and kind of got your introduction in the industry through that position. As you were learning in the industry, we ended up at some point going through the 80s and getting to 92 where you started MME. Was there anything that happened in between you working there and founding MME, or how did you get to the point where you could?
I was very successful with the product lines for this other company. And so when I left that company, I was going to do a different business with my wife, and several of my manufacturers said, why are you doing this? I said, well, I have no money. I have no options. I'm going to do something that I'm comfortable with working with my wife. And they said, well, we'll start you up. We'll put parts on your shelf. We'll give you some demo equipment. You're this business. And that's how it started.
You were the person that was valuable to them, and they needed you to throw the spark into the industry and carry their product line. So was Vaccon one of those companies when you started, or were you with a competitor still?
I had met with Vaccon 6 years earlier, 5 years earlier, and the opportunity to get together was not right at the time. And so when I started the company, I still had kept the relationship with Vaccon up and with the people there. And so when the opportunity came, which is probably 6 months into the new company, the opportunity presented itself and VacconJohn came on board. And that was probably the turning point for me as far as the company went, because the other companies were ancillary products, but VacconJohn was a frontline product.
Yeah, they were the other tools and things that you had to sell, but you had that combination truck, vacuum truck market was the main product that you really
Right, that's how we
branched off.
started the business.
So you started off, VacconJohn wasn't really in the picture from the beginning. So you already knew Daryl well.
I worked with Daryl for 12 years,
Yeah.
13 years.
So you
I
knew Daryl
Todd.
yeah. So at this point, Daryl was a big piece of trying to bring you into the VacconJohn picture again.
Todd Mosley came and offered us an opportunity. Daryl and I had talked behind the scenes, and it was a situation where we were going to move forward with this product line, and that opportunity manifested itself, and so be it.
Yep.
That was 30-some years ago.
Yeah. 32. Because I'm born in 1992, so I know exactly to the date.
Well, actually, it might be.
Oh yeah, depending on the month.
Yeah, there you go. There
Depending on the month. But so that's how municipal maintenance equipment started.
That's correct.
You founded the dealership. Right. So California's huge, and it's a big market in our industry. So when you got started, there had to be some growing pains, some things that happened where you had to start this dealership.
Well, we bootstrapped it, so we really had nothing except the support of our customer base. And because of the way I had provided support and service to my customers for the equipment that I had before, we were given opportunities. And some of the lines that I brought over were lines that I had had for many years already. So it wasn't like we started from nothing, but we really started from nothing.
Right.
And initially I had a couple folks that went to church with us that one did service and one did parts, and my wife and I. And then we had another lady come on board, Nancy Steffen. And we grew from there. And we've had many employees work for us over the years. Some of them have been short-term, but most all of them have stayed a duration that was of value. And I believe we built because of the people and because of the product lines, not because of anything else. You get opportunities in front of you and you take advantage of the opportunities, but you have to work hard and you have to do what you say you're going to do, and hopefully you have some luck.
Yep. And it's the marathon, not the sprint. You have to be able to do it for the long term.
Absolutely. And your track record proves whether you take care of things or you don't.
Yep.
So
one thing that's really interesting that is a common theme for everyone I've sat down with on this podcast, and I think really creates our VacconJohn dealer network, and it makes it special because you've mentioned your wife, Helen, multiple times. You mentioned Nancy. I know that both Tim and James, your sons, are in the business as well. The family aspect of our dealerships, the family aspect of VacconJohn, having this camaraderie, this group of people that are very much entwined with one another in the VacconJohn family, and how we're close with other dealerships that are also family oriented. What are some things, being family run, where you're working with your wife, you're working with your sons? There has to be, my dad's at VacconJohn, so I get the whole picture of it, but even though I'm not directly correlated with him all the time, there has to be difficult times working it through with your family at some points.
Well, we're all strong personalities.
Yeah.
But we also have a different set of goals. Ultimately the same goal, but individually we have certain aspects that are our personal interests. And at this point, I'm not managing the day-to-day at all. I have my responsibilities, but both of the sons are in charge of the company now. They do whatever's necessary for the company. And I'm extremely proud of them. Their decisions on what they've done and how they've done it have been very on target, far more efficient and more meaningful thought-wise than I could have done, because there's one of me and there's two of them.
Yep.
And I'm just proud of the company as a whole and all the people that have helped build the company. I guess our average tenure of employee now is somewhere around 8 to 10 years. And we have employees who have been with us for 30 years and some have been 20-some years. So you don't do that unless you have that culture of caring. And that's what we're about.
The culture of caring is huge. And the other thing that I've found through my career so far at VacconJohn, and that I've talked before on the podcast, but it's so important to me and it's helped me so much, is that when I started working at VacconJohn, it opened up a new lens of what my dad has done in his life that I wasn't privy to at all. I didn't understand what VacconJohns were. I didn't understand what they did. Once I started working at VacconJohn, it's almost like our relationship changed. We became much closer because I got all this background information that I never knew before, which I'm sure Tim and James share the same sentiment in a way because, yes, they grew up in it, but working front lines with you and having you there for advice to help make these decisions is probably something that's...
Well, I'm certain they rely on me as a sounding board in certain decision trials. I think the bigger picture for them, they were both successful in their own professional careers. They're both college graduates. They both had no reason to come to VacconJohn or come to MME or come to VacconJohn. But they chose, after having both of them working when they were growing up and not wanting ever to have anything to do with the business, they chose, after being successful professionally themselves, to come and help us in the company because they saw the need and they appreciated what, now that they were grown up and they had their own lives, they appreciated what we had worked for and they didn't want to see it go away. Pardon me.
So along with that, talking about the family aspect of it, the other thing I love asking people, especially someone in your shoes, that when I sit down with someone and I talk with someone like this, it's a different experience. We have the headphones on, we're locked in. I'm going to know you way better by the end of this podcast than I ever have before because we talk all the time, the couple times a year we get to see each other. But I like learning the history of it, and I learn a lot from sitting down and talking with people, and I love to ask the questions of what were some demos that you've been on before, whether it was with Daryl, with Todd, with your local reps, Terry Palakia, Mike Palakia, where you've been on some demos where it was a slam dunk deal or it was something happened, you had to overcome an issue. I did get a little bit of intel. You mentioned Nancy. Got a little bit of intel. I heard that there was a story about a rock, a famous rock.
Yeah.
Let's hear the story about the rock demo.
The first 12-inch machine I sold to the city of Sacramento. And they took us to a wet well to clean the wet well, to test the machine out when it was brand new. And Terry Palakia was with me on that demo. And we were prepared as a brand new truck, never used before. And they put us down. This wet well is about 20-some feet deep. And they had put all these, what I would say, chosen pieces in addition. So we went right along, and then there was left in the bottom of this wet well was this giant rock. It was literally 12 inches in diameter. And we looked at it, and we said, that's a big rock. I don't know if it'll go up the pipe or not. Well, if you can't pick that up, it's not going to work. So Terry looked at me, and he said, let's do it. So we lowered the boom down, got all the way down on top of the rock, turned the VacconJohn on, and you saw it go in the tube, and you didn't hear it. It came all the way up, and all of a sudden it was like, boom. It hit the back door of this VacconJohn, and it shook the whole truck. And their eyes were huge. Everybody was just so excited about it. And so I made them give me that rock afterwards. And so we've taken this rock to various places and had it on display, and then we'd had people guess how much that rock weighed. 30, 20, 40, 50. It was 50-some pounds, just the rock itself. And it was 12 inches in certain spots, 11 and a half inches. It's almost round. So that's the rock story. But it was testimonial to the product, testimonial to the efficiency of the air mover.
Yep.
And a testimonial of what happens when it hits the rear door. Because if you're
That high
hearing something
speed.
on the rear door, you know you've got something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially
And
something that big.
this because it was just unbelievable, the sound.
So for people that are listening and don't understand the air mover side of things on a 12-inch machine, just to clarify, we're talking about it's a 12-inch system where the boom and the pipe are 12 inches.
And the suction tube is 12 inches.
The suction
12
tube's
inches
12
from
inches.
the inlet all the way up into the body.
And this being an air mover, was it a double blower truck? Was it a fan unit?
Yes.
It was a double blower?
Yes, two
So you
fans.
had 2 fans on the truck. And that was that high CFM, high air moving machine where you were able to do something like that.
Absolutely.
Yes. So that big sound hits the back door. And where's the rock today? You still have the rock?
It's in one of my son's office.
Yeah. So it is does the rock have a name? Do we have a name for the rock, or it's just
No,
it's
it's
just
just-
the,
it's
the
just the
testimonial rock. So now this rock sits in MME's shop, and anybody that's talking vacuum systems, and you're talking about a fan or versus a PD or an air mover versus a standard combo truck,
Right.
you have that to lean on and tell them
Well,
the story.
If you understand, which I do because I've been in this industry so long, there is a different application and a different performance characteristic for both of those types of vacuum systems. And, you know, you have to understand that they represent different jobs more efficiently than other jobs. So it is a true testimonial to how much energy that VacconJohn can produce in lifting with their fan systems. But that's not what they want to do every day. They want to do every day what's necessary to clean sewers and clean storm drains and catch basins, et cetera. They don't have to do that kind of heavy lifting all the time.
Right.
But it has that capacity.
It has the capacity, and like you said, there's a purpose for either one.
Absolutely.
So you have to figure out the customer's needs to figure out what it is that they may not know that they need, but we have to steer them in the direction that's going to be most beneficial to them.
Well, I like to think of us as salesmen that are more solution providers, because if a customer understands what their day-to-day stuff is, you represent a product that is most efficient at day-to-day. If you sell a product that's not efficient day-to-day, but it's really strong in certain areas, you haven't serviced the customer properly. And we're fortunate that VacconJohn sells both fan machines that have high CFM and high lift characteristics, as well as PD machines. So we have the best of both worlds. It's a matter of being a solution-driven salesman to help them find the best tool for them.
Yeah, when you have the knowledge, you can ask the right questions. And I always tell my sales guys, I don't go over the pros and cons of fans or PD blowers. It's the benefits of a fan, the benefits of a PD blower, because we do offer both of them for certain reasons. It really depends on the answers to the questions you're asking. If you have the knowledge to ask the right questions, you'll be able to figure out how to solve the problems that they need solving.
Right.
So it's an interesting tidbit to hear that from because Trevor said something along the same lines when I was talking with him. It's all about problem solving. A little bit going back to the history again, because I really like to hear the stories about it. How did you first meet Daryl or first meet my dad? How did you get in the VacconJohn side of things? What was the first meeting like?
Daryl was the president or vice president of Vactor.
Yep.
And I was with a company that represented that brand, and I worked there for 12 years. So I got to know them very well, and I was a very successful representative of that product. As I've said, if you do what you say you're going to do and you provide good quality service and support, that is going to help you. When I started with them, I didn't know anything about sewer cleaners. I had no idea. I came from a trucking industry. I was a warranty service manager and assistant service manager, warranty person for a Freightliner dealership. So that was my background, but these trucks kept coming through being repaired, so I got to know the truck, and the opportunity to go to work for this company presented itself, so I went to that and learned about the truck. And at the time, there were people that would ask to buy a truck, but you couldn't get them. You couldn't get them trucks then because they were very small in population and they weren't available that much. but it's a different marketplace. It's matured now. People are aware of what their jobs are, how to most efficiently do them. In the old days, rodders were big, and regular jetter trucks were big, and combos were, oh, that can't work. But
That was the new thing.
yeah, that was a new thing. And so as time goes on, the market drives what the market needs for servicing its structure.
Yep.
And we've been fortunate to be with a company for now 30-some years that has risen to the challenge at every turn. There's been downsides, there's been upsides. We've had our share of issues that we work through with our customer base, and they know that we're going to be there for them, whether you have a down or you have an up, because every machine has situations that need to have support and service.
There's a lot of complex moving parts on them. Something's going to happen. We just got to figure out how to manipulate it and change it to make it right.
And the customer base appreciates a commitment to their needs.
Yep. Another interest. So you grew into it with Daryl because you guys were, he was at Vactor and you were at this company. You were selling the Vactors,
Right.
And once Daryl and Vactor split up and he started VacCon, was he automatically on top of you trying to get you to move over, or was it a longer route to where he knew he wanted to grab you at some point?
We met with him on the VaccuJet, which was the prototype of the VacCon. And we were going to take the product line there. It's a whole different story relative to why we didn't, but as it turns out, it was probably the way things are supposed to happen.
Right.
In life, I believe things happen the way they're supposed to.
This episode is brought to you by VacCon. Since 1986, the mission of VacCon has been to support, design, and manufacture innovative vacuum and high-pressure water cleaning solutions that deliver superior performance in municipal, industrial, and utility markets worldwide through their global dealer network. Today, their family of products include combination machines, industrial vacuum loaders, jetters, and hydro excavators that are used in an array of diverse applications by companies in the construction, oil and gas, mining, safety, and environmental industries. These machines are equipped to handle the toughest of jobs in the harshest of conditions. No matter the industry, VacCon's world-class industrial vacuum trucks and trailers are guaranteed to save you time, money, and effort. To learn more or to find your local dealer, visit VacCon online at www.vac-con.com.
Obviously, you were still friendly with Daryl. You still talk with Daryl here and there, or was it?
Absolutely. When you have a relationship with somebody that you work with, and, Daryl and I cleaned storm sewers in San Jose and brought back bicycles and transmissions. So, it was a lot of history there, a lot of good things. Todd, I can't tell you how many trucks Todd and I sold. I mean, it's just that was part of how we became capable of working together, but also capable of recognizing the importance of the right tool.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when I ask my dad some of these stories because I'm always interested in the history of stuff. I'm a history guy altogether. I like listening to but the VacCon history stuff really interests me because I'm at VacCon. But one thing my dad always said, he was in his office and we were talking, he's like, man, Frank used to call me 9, 10, 12 times a day. He was blowing my phone up. But I tell you what, every time he called, he had a deal on the line. And we were trying to make that deal happen.
He was very, very much approachable and very available, but that's when he had a different job than he has now. So I only call him now when I really need some horsepower.
Yeah.
Other than that, we just are social friends and we get along great. But he's very much important to how we became who we are.
It's cool. The other thing, thinking about you going up and I heard that you have a nickname of sorts, the Grinder.
Yeah, but the Grinder is at one of these events because I didn't like to hear somebody say, no, it can't work, because it's a matter of understanding how it does work so you can see why it can work versus having a filter up that says it can't work. So I don't give up. If I have the right tool and the right solution for their problem, I'm going to push for it. I'm going to grind and grind.
Grind and grind and grind away.
And so one VacconJohn sales meeting, and probably in 2000, I'm going to say 2000 maybe, 2001. Mm-hmm. He called me up at the podium and he gave me a gift, an award. Well, not a sales award, not an award for, public speaking, not an award for doing something what normal people get award for. He gave me a bench grinder. So that's how I got the nickname, the Grinder.
Well, and it turns out, and the value to us on that is we probably had, and still in some ways probably have, some people that do say, no, it won't work. But without you grinding away at them, how are we going to come up with these things that are going to be solutions for people in the long run and have innovations where people could say, no, it's not going to work. But if you're grinding away at them, eventually we have to come up with something that's going to satisfy.
Well, grinding is his term
Yeah.
that he gave me. I didn't choose that term. Yeah. But the reality of it is, I believe that if you represent a product and you have knowledge of what the product does, your customer base may not hear what you say until he sees an understanding of how it benefits him personally. And sometimes you don't get that when you look at a brochure. Sometimes you don't get that when you do a demo, because part of what the demo is what you can do versus what they have to do. So knowledge is a key.
Yep. And another interesting thing, again, I don't know the full story on this. This is why it's so interesting to me to ask. But the Pro Reel, I believe, was something where you thought of this a long time ago, right? It was something that was a concept of yours.
Well, the Pro Reel was basically in 1992, maybe. No, maybe 1997, 98, something of that nature. We were in Munich at IFOT. And that date may be incorrect because I'm old. I don't remember all the dates really clearly. Right. But the fact is, we had gone to IFOT and looked at all the products. I represented a boom mower, Tiger boom mower. That's one of our product lines. And I was looking at all the boom mowers in Europe. And all the boom mowers in Europe mount on the front bumper with a slide that goes back and forth. So I looked at that, and I was sitting with Daryl and Todd, and I think 2 or 3 other folks from VacconJohn. Aaron Gonzalez was here. And I told Daryl, I said, we need to do this. We need to put our hose reel on a slide so it can articulate both directions and come outside of the operation of the truck on the passenger side and outside of the operation of the truck on the driver's side and swivel in between. And Daryl said, that's a good idea. How much you want to pay for it?
Classic.
And I said, I don't know. You tell me how much, and that's what I'll pay for it. Well, I can't do that. So it went on the list of things to do at VacconJohn. It was on that list for no less than 8 or 9, maybe 10 years. And it kept falling behind and falling behind. And then when Todd took over, Joe Haas was in a meeting of the summit that we had. A group of us came together. It was Todd's first meeting. And he asked, what can we do to improve the product? And I brought up the concept in this meeting with Joe Haas there, Todd there. And everybody agreed it's a great concept. And Mike Dahlman happened to be in the meeting, and he said, yeah, that would give us a good opportunity to provide a solution to a problem that I have. Shortly thereafter, they started developing the Pro Reel. Mm-hmm. Conceptually, there was nothing in the marketplace that did what the Reel did, but even more importantly, they took it to the next level by putting the sight gauge in front and by having the operators control inside where they can see. So it was my idea for the rudimentary part of it, but VacconJohn and their engineering team, at the direction of Todd, put all this together to make it happen. Now I'd say anybody that believes in safety,
Yep.
that understands the value of putting your operators in a position of safety and setting up appropriately, they shouldn't buy anything else.
Yep. You're getting the guy in the safest position possible to run that storm or sewer line.
Absolutely.
So I think it was either the first dealer meeting I ever went to or the second. I don't remember if it was my first or second one. When we unveiled to you guys, we had everybody, you know, be secretive, nobody talk about this, and we unveiled to you guys what became of the Pro Reel. What kind of feelings did that evoke in you, being the one that really was saying, hey, this is going to be a good idea, and through all these years, you finally got to see it in front of you?
Well, I'd say what I felt was, why didn't we do this 10 years ago?
Yep.
I mean, you see the value. Why did we do this 10 years ago?
Yep.
Everything happens in the right time.
Yep.
Pardon me. You don't know when it happens, but you know when it happens, if it's right, it works.
Yep.
So I'm very proud of the fact that I had a thought. Very proud of VacconJohn for carrying it to the level they did.
Yeah. Even though it took a very long time, look.
It was worthwhile.
And now, walking into the, I will say this with complete honesty. Running my demo truck with the Pro Reel on it, and the revamps that we've made to it, the how we've cleaned up everything on that front end, walking to that booth and seeing that reel, I think the VacconJohn team has really done something that has changed the industry. I truly believe that it is a game changer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It gives them operator, even in inclement weather, if they want to set the reel up and have it in a position before they get out of the truck, think of the savings of energy and time in rain and snow. There's so many values.
And a lot of people don't, you know, some people do, but the operators are the guys that are always that person with their hands on the truck. They have to be happy with how that truck operates. They have to love it, or else they're not going to recommend that truck to the next time they buy something, or the next time they need to start a business and buy a truck. It's always going to be, what do they enjoy operating? The Pro Reel's very, very fun to operate and run because it's so simple, it's so easy.
Right. And it gives you versatility.
Yep. So some other things, MME-wise, you know, starting it in 1992 all the way to today. I know that you said that your sons run the business, and you're that sounding board. You're kind of in an advisory. You're helping them through challenges and maintaining relationships that you've had a long time. But what is something, if you could go back on a time machine, is there anything that sticks out where you would do something completely different and take it a different route in any way?
I don't ever look backwards. I look forwards. We didn't get to where we are as a company as a whole without contributions from everyone that's been part of VacconJohn. As I said, some have been there for a short period, some have been there for a very long period. We don't exist without everyone contributing and everyone being part of a cultural growth. And that's how it happens. So I don't think there's anything I'd change.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously you say, well, I should have not bought that.
Yeah.
Because that was a waste.
Right.
I shouldn't have. Gosh, why did I spend so much time on that product? Mm-hmm. But if you believe in something, you're going to invest the time and energy to find out, will it satisfy those needs that we want to try to help a customer with? And sure, you make a choice on a product and it just doesn't fit what the customer thought it would, or I thought the customer would see it to do. But, you know, that's part of having a business.
And probably gives you the knowledge that helps you make decisions through the road. And, hey,
well, there's something to be said for wisdom over time.
yeah, you don't get to learn by not making mistakes. Those are the things that make the wisdom portion of it.
Well, sometimes when you make a mistake, it teaches you something you couldn't have learned otherwise. And over time, you learn things I'll give you an example. Caltrans bought their first truck from me in 2000. And they always have an inspection at the factory. So we came to the factory, and the truck was built, and they'd asked for a reverse pivot, so it pivots into the side where they can work on
The curbside.
curbside.
Yep.
And we got to the plant, we went through it, and the engineers that were inspecting it, this was for an order of quite a number of machines, but this was the first machine. Engineers that were inspecting it said, well, how are we going to do our storm drains off the side of the truck? I said, what do you mean? The factory had built the hose reel with the wrong swing on it.
A standard pivot.
A standard pivot versus a reverse pivot. So VacconJohn being who VacconJohn is, we said, well, yeah, we'll be able to take care of that. That was in the afternoon. The following morning, we came to the shop, and there was a brand new reel on it with the correct pivot on it.
Wow.
So they could see exactly what they wanted to see. But that's the reaction that VacconJohn has. If they have a problem, they correct it. And in this instance, the problem was somebody misinterpreted the order and just built it as a standard reel versus a reverse. That response, I think, helped VacconJohn to earn some respect with Caltrans because they reacted and showed that it wasn't something that was a one-off. It's we can do either or, whichever you want. So that's just another story of how VacconJohn met the test, but it was a mistake. When you say something bad happens, it's how you react to what bad happens.
Yep.
You learn from it.
Yep. So another good question for you, and that one question I enjoy because sometimes it brings out a pretty good funny story. What was a demo that you've been on before where you went out on that demo, who knows if you were planning for it or not, but it became a mess as far as you were a mess at the end of it?
Well, not only me. We did demo for Humboldt Community Services District, which is far northern California. And we were running a truck that at those days had a decant hose off the back door. In the early days, the decant hose had ring clamps on it. And when you dumped a full load of liquid, those ring clamps were stressed because it would be filled with water. And that was fine as long as it kept flowing. But on this demo, the 8-inch tube, or 6-inch tube, I should say, was down at the bottom of the manhole, and it got crimped. So it filled up, and the hydraulic pressure inside the tank forced so much pressure that those ring clamps came off. Well, myself and the general manager of the district were leaning over the hole, looking in the hole, and the guy that was operating the truck had a hard hat on, and all of a sudden the hose let go and went down in the manhole, and effluent was coming out of the 6-inch drain onto his hard hat and spraying all over, and sprayed all over the general manager of the district, myself, and the operator. Well, eventually it slowed down. We got out of the way, but there was a significant amount of mess there, and the gentleman ultimately bought a truck.
There you go. I was going to ask.
It was an accident that happened. We never went out without tightening those clamps in the future. Now we use a completely different system, so not the same.
Yeah, that's funny. So what in that situation back in the day, we ditching those clothes? Are those clothes trashed, or do you have to bring those back and say, hey, honey?
Well, it was 5 hours from where I needed to be, and I had to ride in a car because those days, everything was, didn't have a lot of extra money to go out and buy clothes. So I drove all the way home with whatever had dried.
Yeah,
It had dried because we were out in the sun.
Probably crispy too.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. But at any rate, those are the kind of things that happen, and you just, I'll give you another example. We were demoing to an agency, and we had a hydraulic leak on the back engine in the middle of a demo. And all of a sudden, it caught fire from the hydraulics. Well, we shut the engine down, put the fire out, but we had done such a good job cleaning that storm drain, they bought the truck. But we didn't know that leak existed. It just happened. There was a loose connection or something. Mm-hmm. That's again one of those things when you go out and you do a demo, you don't know what you're going to run into.
You never know.
No.
And how you react to the adversity on the demo probably has a huge swing on the emotions of the customer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was funny more than it was anything because it happened. We were out in the middle of nowhere cleaning this big storm drain, and we fixed it. Got fire out. I mean, it didn't burn anything. It didn't burn any wiring or anything. It just happened. We put it out, tightened everything up, and it worked again. So it was not like the end of the world, but it was a reaction to what had happened, so that we were able to finish the job, and they bought the truck.
Yeah, the overcoming the adversity and reacting the correct way when something goes awry.
Yeah.
Having the confidence that you can figure it out is probably key as well.
I don't know that I have the confidence I can figure out. I just do what you can do at the moment.
Right. So, Frank, would you consider yourself a really good multitasker?
Well, my wife would say I'm ADD, and I've had some of my employees say I'm a multitasker. But as I get older, I've got too many tasks. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm a multitasker.
Do you think that there might be a story out there about using two cell phones and driving at the same time and having two separate conversations on two different phones?
Mike Plakey talked to you about this, or Terry Plakey tell you about this?
No,
Yes.
I didn't get it in from either of them. I got it from somebody on the MME side.
Well, I used to drive with two cell phones. I did. And the reason for that, I don't know. I can't answer right now because it was such a long time ago. But I was talking on one cell phone to Tim Powers' wife, who was getting ready to have her baby in the hospital, and I was rushing to the hospital to be with her because Tim was out on a boat in the middle on a fishing trip with one of our associations.
Oh, boy.
And so I'm on my other phone, I'm talking to the captain of the ship on the boat he's on to tell him that I'm heading in because his wife is delivering their baby right now, and he needs to get home as quick as he can. And I went into a stoplight, didn't know where I was, and got T-boned while I had both phones in my hand. I finished the phone call. I was trapped in my car, and I totaled the car. The car was totaled, and I was bent up a little bit. But the long and the short of it is, he got the message. I went to the hospital. I saw her. Made everything's okay. It's okay. And then I got out of shock and kind of took it easy for a while. Tim Powers with me. He's probably he's the first employee that I hired.
He was the number one employee of MME. He was the first person you hired.
First salesman that I hired for a territory. And he became our sales manager. And 3 years ago, he passed. There'll never be another one like him. He touched so many people in so many different ways. I truly believe he became the man that he wanted to be working at MME. And he gave himself to MME. And I'm so sorry he left us so early.
I am too. And I was very happy that I had the pleasure to meet him in person, go on a demo with him, see a Tim Powers walk around. Through my first few weeks at VacconJohn,
Right.
I got to see all of that. And it is extremely sad that he passed, but what a great legacy that he has. And
His son is working for us now.
Corey
is with us now. He's a chip off the old block, so to speak, in certain ways. And I remember Corey when he was a little boy, when he first started growing up.
Yep.
I think Corey was 2 when I hired Tim.
Yep.
But he's keeping the legacy alive.
Yes, he is. And I have never met someone that said anything negative about the way that Tim held himself, sold, and kept care of the customers. All three of those things he did.
He was the epitome of customer service.
Yep.
Our goal used to be customer satisfaction is our goal. And it's still the cultural goal, but that was our tagline, our logo. But now it's a little different, but that's the core of who we are.
Yep. And that is the bones of a good dealership. That's really what matters.
We believe so.
Yep. Well, one of the last things I want to really ask you, unless after we talk you have anything else you want to say, someone in not necessarily in my shoes, but someone that's just starting their journey in the industry. I'm 4 years in now, close to 4 years. What advice would you give someone that is just starting, getting into the industry? What would you tell yourself 4 years in? What's some advice you'd give?
Be yourself. Be honest. Don't make a promise that you don't keep. You have to work hard if you want to be successful.
Yep.
When I started this business, I was working from 5:30 a.m. till 8 p.m. at night, every day. And then after I got home, I would be working on other things. So it takes a hard commitment to get started and get to know what you're supposed to be about. But time is your helper if you stay with it.
I think it's awesome to hear you say that, because you get there's a lot of sales reps that feel like they can't be themselves and they need to put on a front to be the most knowledgeable person in the world. The knowledge takes so much time. I learn something new every single day, and I feel like I'm always going to have something that I can learn, because it's just I'm interested in all of it. But being yourself and being truthful about the way you're going about your job is key. And the best thing about being yourself in a job that we have is that you're never going to be off. If you're always yourself, you're not going to get caught being off, because there's no off.
Right.
You're being yourself the whole time. That is great advice to live by going through. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or anything you want to bring up?
No, I'd just like to say our success is not owned by us. It's a collective success. It's owned by all the people, and by all the people I'm saying VacCon, all of VacCon's team, and the commitment they've made continuously. And we've made, conversely, continuously to work together and work through the hard spots and work through the good times and be there for each other.
Yep. I greatly appreciate you sitting down with me. I think I learned a ton listening to the stories and the background of how you got started. I think it'll be beneficial for everybody to hear. And now we got to go sell some trucks at the show. But again, thank you for sitting down with me. It was awesome. I hope to do it again soon. We got to make Frank Wheeler a recurring guest on VacconJohn Unplugged if you want to be. But thank you, Frank.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. It's been fun, John.
Yes.
It's been fun watching you.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun learning everything. Well, we're going to go sell some trucks.
There you go.